कोशिश करेंगे। औज़ुबिल्लाहिमिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम, बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, अस्सलामुअलैकुम, जी आयानु, पखैर आगले, नीहाव, चुनशुम्मे, वशमले, ओहायो गंजाइमस, गूटन मोगन, ओला, बोयोर, प्रीवियत, कैफाहाल, हाले शुमा चतोरे, ahlan wasalan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, swabia, balli kere aya, hosh ke al din nayo, sayo, kuya mora, Chivato, Chihajo, Kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me. Jazakallah khair. So yesterday it was really hot, but now as we were driving to the office, it was really cool and there was cool wind blowing. And I really like the beauty of Islamabad because Islamabad and Rawalpindi were famous for the very temperate weather. So if you experience 2-3 days of very hot and intense weather, the next day you will witness a rain because of the dam here, right? But having said so, we would like to kickstart our day by introducing this news that Meta, a company which owns Facebook and WhatsApp too, has a new feature on the horizon, and it's called Chat Lock. Okay. So what is that feature exactly? So with that feature, you can lock a specific chat or conversation and it will not even show up in your bars as a conversation, and you can only unlock it with your biometric sort of fingerprint or your password, right? So that's a very, sort of a deal or a way to secure or privatize your messages. And certainly we've seen in the 21st century that privacy was a big concern, especially with the big data and with the metadata. So lock chat can hide the details of your conversation. It can keep the messages secure and private, and obviously it can take the threads out of your inbox.
So nobody would know that that you've been talking to this YZ or XYZ
unless
person.
you unlock that with your fingerprints or with your password or whatever.
So the only thing, Hajar, which I would want to think over here is, why would you want to chat with somebody over WhatsApp and then lock it so that nobody else is able to see it anyways? Why would you do that?
Okay, so
because otherwise you might not even chat with that person if if it's that insecure.
I mean, sometimes what happens is, especially with when you have kids and when they are toddlers, so they are fiddling a lot with your WhatsApp and they might be able to unlock it because these kids are really smarter, right?
I think it's this feature is going to save a lot of marriages, ladies and gentlemen. Let me put it straight out there as well, and I think it's a straight fact, but it's a wonderful one. I think where WhatsApp actually introduced when anybody could see whether you're online or not. I think that was one feature where people used to kind of text you, even if you're online, why aren't you replying to me? And then not just that, those blue ticks, so every time you're going to read someone's message, they would know that you have read their message as well. Now people have turned off their blue ticks as well, so you're always in a confusion whether the other person has actually read your text or not. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think it sounds more like now Snapchat as well, because imagine that they have these disappearing feature as well, that okay, within 24 hours, whatever your chat was, it will disappear, so no matter what happens. So a lot of security features coming out.
And then they have also said that they will, with the passage of time, also introduce an option where your companion can also unlock that. So your assertion initially that it will save a lot of marriages, I don't know with the introduction of that how much true it will stand, but I think these companies, Google, Yahoo, WhatsApp, Meta, etc., they have been accused a lot, especially by the people of the third world countries, that they're often assisting people against the current setup or against the current government, because we have seen in the Al Jazeera, in the Arab Spring, that how people were actually assisted by the Yahoo, by the WhatsApp, and all of these protesters, they were helped by such sort of security features that were introduced by the Facebook, by the WhatsApp and whatnot. But obviously, I always maintain that technology is never neutral. It can take a lot of sides, but we will save that debate for some other day.
In addition to that, for everybody who's out there, you were very right when you said that, obviously kids do fiddle around with your WhatsApp and whatnot. As far as it's kids doing that, I think nobody has got a problem. But ladies and gentlemen, I think it's for the spouses to respect each other's privacy. Do not get into anybody's WhatsApp or messages without their permission. I think that's something where we really need to draw a line. It's all about ethics over here as well. But thank you very much, WhatsApp, for introducing this wonderful biometric feature because alhamdulillah, so it does not matter, who your wife is or, who your husband is, ladies and gentlemen, the biometric can never be the same, all right? So please make sure that you use it wisely. But now coming down towards the top stories, let's see what's happening in the world. First up in the Pakistan and then outside the country.
So, veteran actor and playwright Shoaib Hashmi passed away in Karachi after a prolonged illness. He was 84 years old. Inna lillahi wa inna ilahi rajiun. Hashmi, who was the son-in-law of poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz, was also a professor of economics. Shoaib Hashmi, a satirist who wrote pioneering satire shows for PTV in 1970s, is remembered for his productions Akar Bakar, Sach Cup. He also wrote columns in the leading English dailies. Hashmi also wrote extensively for the theatre and translated a few books. He was also the recipient of the Pride of the Performance in Tamgha Imtiaz.
So may his soul rest in peace and patience for the bereaved as well. And moving on, where, ladies and gentlemen, the government announced a decrease in the prices of petroleum products. Well, a good news. And ladies and gentlemen, in his televised speech, Finance Minister Ishaq Dar Sahab said that the price of petrol has been reduced by rupees 12 per litre, while the price of high-speed diesel has been cut by rupees 30 per litre. The new price is effective from today. And he said, because I was watching this live as well with my father, he said that for the next 15 days, that's how the prices are going to stay.
Wonderful.
And I think it's a wonderful omen. And
much needed respite, right?
The people feel a lot of relief out there. Imagine for people who were actually thinking about it as well, that the prices really need to go down. But I think it's for people to understand that even if the prices are low, please make sure that you're not roaming around on the streets just like that without a reason. Don't do that. Okay, make sure that you have a reason. You have all the freedom to go wherever you want. But if you do not have a reason, do not just roam around, all right?
Don't loiter around.
It's not light, yeah, just like that. So imagine in England, they introduced this rule that nobody should be roaming out without a reason. Even in their cars, and they were like, okay, we will keep a check within the community and within the society as well.
I mean, that's
so nobody should be roaming around.
Very explicit encroachment on your liberty and freedom and whatever the Enlightenment ideals that emanated from the England. But we will move on to very topic
and that was during the rush hours though, only.
Oh yes, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
So which is about, we are celebrating today's Mother Day. Initially, the Mother Day is held in the Sunday, on the first Sunday of every May. But since we do not have a program on Sunday, so we would like to celebrate our mother, the concept of motherhood all around the world, and we want to pay tribute to the mothers, the wonderful mothers who are working day in, day night without any compensation, and it's a very unconditional love. So Shahzad, it is said that it takes a village to raise a child, right?
True.
But nowadays we see the villages are almost disappearing, right? So we are getting so much urbanized. So to pay the tribute and to discuss the concept of motherhood, how it is very much initial, especially in the concept of the self, we're very delighted that we have been joined by two wonderful ladies who are also the educationists, and the concept of motherhood is interlinked with the educationists because the women who introduced the Mother's Day were also educationists. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Miss Mehsoona Waqar. She happens to be educationist and the principals of the Scan School. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Good morning.
Maji, thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. So joining her, we have Miss Bushra Nader. She is also an educationist. She is also a principal of the Scan School. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Maji, Jazakallah, thank you so much. The honor is all ours as well, and it's wonderful to have you over here. So let's start with, highlighting the significance of this day. Or do you think that it should be one day, because whenever we talk about Mamta, whenever we talk about mothers, 365 days, 24/7, they're always on their toes as well. And this is something which I've witnessed my mother doing so as well. And now my children's mother is doing so as well. So the sleepless nights, no matter, when you have toddlers, when they get up, wake up, dress them for their school, make sure that they are feeded on time, because the father certainly has no idea which grade their kids are going to, what are they eating in breakfast. So let's start with the importance and the significance of this day.
Well, I think you have said it very rightly, that why just one day? But I still feel that although religiously, morally, ethically, the mother has an undisputed position, but still focusing on one specific day for a mother, at least you can just, pay her that gratitude, which you cannot. It's an all, like you said, it's an all-time job, and there's no clock in and clock out sort of a job for her. Once she's a mother, she's a mother for life.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
And we somehow the other just take her for granted, you know. You walk in home and you find that everything is spick and span, the food is cooked according to your likes and dislikes, and everything is in place.
Yeah.
But one day, maybe you walk in at home and you find that the breadcrumbs are still lying on the table, the bed is unmade.
Yeah, mom is not around.
Mom is not
Yeah,
around.
That's true.
My clothes are still on the floor.
The way you left it in the morning.
Yes, yes.
You know, that is where it strikes you that what it's I call them women warriors.
True.
Yes.
Even when there's, you talked about sleepless night, and I think that even when a mother is asleep, she's not sleeping. Her mind is all the time awake.
That's true.
Right.
It's
So Ms. Bushra, you wanted to talk about the diverse face of the motherhood, right? So a woman is not just a mother, so she is also juggling between a lot of different roles, right? She might also be a wife, she might also be a sister, a mother, and so many other social roles. For example, you are an educationist, a principal, and you are juggling between
And a
so
mother
many
also.
students, right?
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about it. Please go ahead.
I want to talk about the diverse face of motherhood.
Sure.
Like motherhood is not only confined to being a biological mother.
Right.
There are elderly figures in your homes who are looking after you. Sometimes in the absence of a mother, there are many ladies around who are looking after you, who are meeting your needs, and they are emotionally like supporting you. So all such figures, they should be appreciated
That's true.
for their efforts.
And you know, today this whole reason to gather over here is to
Yes.
kind of appreciate, to kind of make sure that we recognize their, I mean, motherhood as well. And
Yes.
to be very honest, you know, let me give you an example of my mother. So imagine, no matter whether she's angry with me or not, you know, so there's a routine, you know, which she will follow no matter what,
Yes,
whether she's
yes.
angry, whether she's not.
Yes.
Early morning, there will be breakfast on my table. She would ask me
She
whether
will
you want
never
any new.
stop caring for you.
She would actually ask me whether you need anything else, you know, and even if I need tissue paper, I do not have to say it. You know, so I'm just going to look around while I'm
and
having a
then-
bite,
and
and
it's
she
there
would already
then,
know
yeah.
that he needs a
Very
tissue
right.
paper, and she would get up and she would. Even Maji, you know, I do not want you to do that. I can do it on my own, but you know, I love it. You know, the way you've been doing it for all of us, and not just one.
Yes.
Imagine we're 7 siblings, alhamdulillah. And at times I think
Exactly.
that, you know, my mother might have gone through quite a lot. You know, imagine, so
Raising
one
7.
baby is waking up, one baby is crying, one baby is eating.
It's a feed time, and it's school time, and it's homework time.
Yeah, so
Just
you know,
imagine.
but it comes naturally. So imagine, you know, even our religion tells us that, you know, maa ke kadmon ke niche jannat hai. You know, if you want to go to heaven, please
Yes.
make sure. So first 3 times it's the mother,
Yes.
And the
then on the
fourth
4th
time
time it's
And
the
it is
father.
because of the challenges that a mother is facing throughout the life.
Yes.
Like different stages of a child's life. First is infancy, then comes childhood, then adolescence. In all these stages, mother's role is very, very
And
important.
especially when they get to
Like-
the teenage as well.
Like in
That's the
infancy,
most important.
it is because of the presence of mother that a child is feeling secure.
Yes, that's
Then
true.
in childhood, mother is responsible for building a self-concept of the child.
That's true.
So, and in adolescence, you are having teenage tantrums, you are having a lot of energy, and the mother is there to channelize those energies in the right direction.
Exactly.
So, all mothers are facing so many challenges,
Yes.
and they are like tackling it according to their abilities, their own skills.
Yeah.
So, all mothers are to be appreciated.
Exactly, that's what we are doing. So jitni bhi mai hai, you know, so for all of those mothers who are out there, may you be a grandmother now, may you be a mother, and people who aspire to become mothers as well. I think you're in for a treat, inshallah. But there's one more thing, and that is that, you know, so they say, it's a very famous proverb that, you know, that the river of love always, you know, go downstream. You know, so whenever we are to talk about mothers, does it come naturally, or do you think that the mothers really have to push themselves?
No, I think it comes naturally. God is, this is the nature's way.
yes.
You know, it comes naturally.
Yes.
Once the mother knows she is going to be maybe a mother,
Yes.
so that is, I think, all the rivers start flowing.
Yeah.
That is it. It is very natural.
Exactly. And how do you feel, you know, for
and
example,
that is why Shahzad, Allah has compared his love with the mother's love. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
That's
yes.
so
70 maal
true.
zyada
70
pyar
maal
karte
se
hain.
zyada
And this is exactly what I wanted to ask you. So how do you feel naturally? Because I might not have had this conversation with my mother. We're too shy of it. You know, we might
we
not
shy
even,
away,
Yeah,
exactly.
we might not even hug her. You know, she might just give me a tap on the back as well. How do mothers actually feel when
You know,
they're
there are times when you do feel frustrated. You want to, you know, just do it like this, but then that is what makes it a mother.
Yeah.
You know, your nails are biting into your palms,
Yeah.
but then you sail through it. And as Bushra just very rightly said, the teenage. you know, we sail through the infancy and the toddler and everything. Once the teenage settles in, that's the time when, you know.
But there's only one more question which I wanted to ask before, you know, I move on to Haja, and Haja can definitely lead the conversation. That is that, so when I was in my teenage, I used to ask my mother, Ammi, मैं cricket खेलने चले जाऊँ? नहीं. Okay, you know, so that was the first thing she would say. So I would ask her for permission to go and play cricket outside in the street or probably in the ground. She would tell me no. And then I would be like, what's the reason? And she would never give me a reason. Like, वजह तो बता देना, क्यों नहीं जाना मैंने? मुझे बताया तो बस नहीं जाना, कह देता है तो कह देता है. You know, so why do you think mothers are so protective about their children that they at times might be, you know, just because of their love, there might be a hindrance in between their social development?
No, I don't think so. That's a hindrance for the social development. Yes, the instinct of protecting their child,
It's
no
too
matter
much.
what age.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's just too high though.
Yes,
then,
they
very
can't let go.
overpowering, yes.
You know, and I'm a grandmother as well.
Mashallah.
And I find that it has translated into the grandchild now. So I feel so protective. You know, I'm telling my daughter not to do it. You know, that transcends the
Yes.
boundaries
So
of
don't
age.
you think at times the mothers really need to take it easy as well?
No, I don't
But
think
you
so.
have
The
to
mother cannot.
convince mother. Once a mother is convinced that why you are going outside, then she would allow.
But she's
I've
never
seen-
convinced her. That's what I'm saying. She would always tell
It's
me.
difficult to
I think
convince a
there's
mother.
more to this story which Shahzad is not telling. We will
Yeah,
ask
exactly.
him. Yeah. Because we see that this transition from mother being an advisor, and then when especially from the teenage, then you move into the adulthood. So you will see her role changing into being a consultant, right? She would give you advices, but she would not force those advices into you, right? So Ms. Bushra, you were talking about the challenges of being a motherhood, right? Obviously, we praise the concept of motherhood a lot, and it's a sacred trust, it's a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but especially the mothers who have kids who are differently able, who have special needs, right? So they are struggling a lot,
Now
and like I
there
said,
you see a face of motherhood, you see unconditional love, and you see how they are caring for their children day and night.
exactly.
And I think those mothers should be acknowledged, appreciated, and they should be supported
So how
also.
can we appreciate them? Because as I mentioned before, it takes
Selfless
a
hoti hai na,
village.
ma.
No, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So it's not just mother who is shaping an identity of a child. There are a lot of other factors too. Primarily it's mom, right? Obviously, but then what are the special challenges, or how we can help
You know,
her?
for children with special needs, they are not accepted in the society. It's very difficult to get them accepted, and then they have to be supported in schools also. So if mother is there to help them, you know, we are having in our schools even, we are having children with special needs. So mother's role is very, very important
Right,
there. Mother has to support the child 24 hours in their readings, in their writings, whatever challenges their children are facing. So I have seen even those children, they are excelling in education, and they are meeting the benchmarks. Maybe they are meeting those benchmarks a little late, but with their mother's support, they are doing very well.
Exactly,
Right.
and that's exactly what you want. And you know, even though that, you know, we have seen our schooling system as well.
Yes.
Within the primary education, you know, they were all women teachers, and they did a wonderful job. You know, so you feel closer to them.
Because they have
You can
that
share-
innate
Yeah,
capability to
Caring,
handle
yeah.
Exactly,
children.
you can share anything with them, and you know, they would always be kind to you. Other than, you know, our men teachers, you know, when I was in the higher the higher
secondary schools.
segment of the society or the education, you know, where I was there for HSSC board examinations as well. Now there was my Urdu teacher Sir Zahir, you know, so you would write a sentence wrong, Shapak, you know, and that's like,
Can
alright, you know, what's happening
can
today?
I share an event? An event in the life of a scientist.
Sure,
I read it somewhere, and that it really touched my heart. That a child, he came to his mother with a letter from the principal. Mother opened the letter, and she read to his child that your principal has written that your child is intelligent, and he is so intelligent that we do not offer such kind of activities that would match his intelligence, so kindly change his school. So he was admitted to some other place, then mother supported him throughout life, and at the end he was very successful scientist, and he made inventions. Then what happened that when his mother had died, many years passed by, and then he was just seeing the material in storeroom, and he found that letter. And that letter he read, that principal had written that your child is a low achiever. he is unable to
we
cope
cannot
with the
help
class
him, yeah.
activities, and please change his school.
Wow.
Or you can have a teacher on the individual basis. This is how a mother developed that child's self-concept.
True. And you know, I
If
think
she-
even self-confidence, when we are to talk about that, the parents have to do quite a lot, especially mothers. And I see that, you know, my wife does that every single day. She does not allow me to say, you know, anything to my kids and that in front of public. And, you know, what you mentioned is so real that imagine that every time my parents would go to a parent-teacher meeting, my teachers would tell them that, you know what, he's a brilliant student, but he does not concentrate, you know. And I was like, hey, what do you actually mean by that? He's a brilliant student, but he does not concentrate. I think it's likewise. But sir, madam, having said so, now what I would want to ask you is that, okay, you know, mothers are always selfless. They do not demand anything, you know, from their kids as well. I mean, with their husbands, obviously it's very different. You know, so, I mean, mother is like an epitome of, you know, caregiving in the first place. What is that one thing that mothers want from their children? You know, because this is something which mothers have really not been vocal about. So today when we have this opportunity, you as a mother, what would you want from your kids?
Time.
Time. Okay,
Yeah.
number one,
Well,
time.
with this generation, it's the time. I think that the time is equivalent to the love and the gratitude that they can express.
True.
That's with this generation that we're talking about.
Exactly. Anything else, you know, so time is one. Let's talk about this now, because mothers do not speak about this, that, okay, you know, this is something we want. They've always been on the giving end. And,
but
you know, children are always on the receiving end as well. So
Yes.
time might be one thing. There might be a few other things which a mother might think about
And-
while she's sitting all by herself.
And also-
Like, yaar, ye abhi aake ko mere se is tarah ki baat hi kar lega
And
muslim.
I have seen that children are not very vocal about their love with parents, especially
Yes,
mothers.
that's true.
So they should also express.
Express, you know, this is what I said. This
Expression of
this
love, maybe
time.
in the form of a gift or
Right.
maybe a hug.
Yeah.
So this is what mothers
A
would
very small
like to
That's
hear
it.
from their
of just
children.
coming and, you know, hugging, and that's it.
And that doesn't take a lot, you know,
It
even for
doesn't
the kids
even
to
cost you anything, and it doesn't even cost you time as well, you know, a second just giving a hug and then going and moving forward. But that makes the mother. That makes the mother's day. You know,
Exactly.
if they just walk in and they give you a hug and then they are gone. And you just keep on staring at their back and you say, okay.
And then when, you know, for example, if they have boys or girls, when they get married, you know, so how do you think that the feelings of a mother do change a little bit as well, where they would want their kids to prioritize their married life in the first place, then look after their children? Because then eventually you see, you know, this is a life cycle of a child for a mother,
course.
that, you know, that the mother is always at the
unit,
back foot as well. You know,
exactly.
she does not kind of says quite a lot, even though she feels quite a lot. That, okay, you know, this son of mine, you know, who I've raised is now probably looking forward to a lot of other things,
Because
and that too
that's
with
a
another life
separate
partner.
unit now he's establishing. So, you know, I think that the mother has to step back. She has to step back, take
times-
stock.
You know, obviously mothers do not say anything, but, you know, they might feel quite a lot. That's what I would want you to kind of share, that do mothers feel that, यार मैं
Yeah.
पाल पोस के इतना जवान की अभी
They
आगे मेरे से
do.
2 मिनट बात नहीं
Honestly
करता?
speaking,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do.
yeah. That-
Yes, honestly speaking, they do. They
Exactly.
do. Because their time is divided now.
And I think it's a message for all the wives out there as well, that you really need to kind of make sure that, you know, just like you are a mother,
Yes.
make sure that your husband is somebody's child, and they go out there and they give them time and they give them respect. You sit down with
Yes.
them, and, you know, because it's coming from a mother's mouth, and never ever before I've heard such a conversation on television where people might have asked them about, you know, how mother might feel, you know. So since it is all about Mother's Day, let's kind of contribute towards their well-being, of them being happy, you know, giving them what they actually deserve and want.
But to carry forward this conversation more, Shahzad, so we have been joined by another wonderful lady. She happens to be Durre Nayab Akram, and she's also a journalist. So we have been joined by her through Skype. So Assalamu alaikum, Durre Nayab. How are you doing? Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
Walaikum assalam. How are you, Hajra?
Alhamdulillah. So
Hello, assalamu alaikum. You know, I'm sitting
Hello,
just beside
I wish I
Hajra.
could be there in person.
Thank you
Right,
so much for
right.
joining us. Wonderful to have you. So, obviously, we'll come down to women in journalism, but first things
Yes.
first. You know, how do you feel about Mother's Day, about its importance, about its significance? What
And-
will be your message for your mother today?
Well, it's really different as a child and as a mother. I have two babies now. My
Mashallah.
first baby is, the elder one is of 3 years and the younger one is of 2 years. And if I go back in time, if I go back 4 years ago, I used to treat Mother's Day from the perspective of a child. I used to think that yes, I should be thankful to my mother, but I have so much in life, and Mother's Day is not just, it should not be celebrated just one day, and my
That's
mom should
true.
not really expect much from me and all.
Yeah.
But now, I love it. I love the mom for the feeling. I love it when Hania comes to me and when she hugs me. And
Wonderful.
then I love it when Yahya is very small, so he does not really know what Mother's Day is. But I love the tradition of Mother's Day breakfast. I love the tradition of Mother's Day dinners. I guess it's really different when you change in life.
Yes, but Turin Nayab, you will feel also, and especially this is very challenging for all of the young mothers, and also not just the young at heart too, that how social media or the gadgets are changing the way children were raised, right? So a lot of
Oh,
time you will
definitely,
find it's a very challenge not to let them stick towards the gadgets, because obviously the young mothers, they're also very busy. Most of them are working, and it's for our city that it's not to let them get addicted with that. And we see that there are a lot of challenges which are being raised because of the children's addiction to the kids. So I was talking to a mother, a very young mother, and her son couldn't develop the senses, and he got the autism because he was glued so much on the mobile phone. So his senses were
That's
not
a lot.
engaged at all. So how do you feel about this development?
But the challenges are very real. The childhood that we had, it's very different from the childhood that we are giving our children. But then we should also realize that the times have changed.
Yes.
We can't really expect the Sher ki nazar and Sone ka nawala and a stitch in time saves nine mantra to hold to. So
Rolling
yes,
Stone
I
gathers the
get
most,
very
yes.
irritated, and I have to keep on saying no 1,000 times in very polite terms to my children. But then I can't really do anything about it. I have to make them see reason. I have to make them see that what they are doing is wrong. But I can't force my choices on them.
Yes.
And I know my parenting modeling is not going to go well with a lot of your viewers, because my ammi is very, very, very against it. She
Right.
says that no,
Yes.
you have to, but well.
But Naya, please stay with us, because we will carry forward this conversation. So, Ms. Bushra,
Sure.
principal, you are an educationist, and you will find this is also very challenging not to let your kids or your students takes too long for the towards this gadgets or the screens, and it's a really challenging shortening or shrinking their screen time, right? So, as a principal, what do you recommend to the mothers? Because if it's not the mobile or gadgets, then there should be some other activity, right, which your children should be engaged with. So
Taking them to the parks, and
Yes.
then in schools even we are having sports activities. We are
Okay.
involving them in sports activities.
Right.
And then even in classrooms it's being emphasized that we should have group works, and cooperative learning is being arranged for them,
Okay.
so that they interact with each other. That is
Right.
a real kind of talk with each other.
Right.
And because when you are on screen all the
Yes,
time, then you do not develop that perseverance
That's
or
true.
tolerance.
That's
So
true.
children are not into completion of tasks. They find it very
Yes.
difficult to
Yes.
complete a task. They would start it and then they would get bored, because they are into changing screens all the time, changing pics all the time, changing colors all the time, so they get bored. And it's
Right.
very important to have such activities where children are engaged in activities and they are into completion of tasks within the given time.
Right. So, Miss Mesuna, sorry, pardon me. So we when I was growing up and I was a young, so Shahzad, do you remember we had this channel called Cartoon Network, and we were glued with that.
That was the only channel we had.
Yes.
I used to watch Spot Cards, by the way.
Yes, Nickelodeon, and there were other couple of Cartoon Network, cartoons channels, but now
Ninja
the cartoon,
Turtle.
yes, but the now Cartoon Network is no more, because the kids, they are so much glued to the Baby Shark and all of these
all of these,
things
yes.
like Coco Melon and whatnot coming on, right? So you also find this very challenging task, right?
It is, it
So what, and you are also a nanny, so what advice do you give to your own daughter when you see that your own granddaughter?
And does it work?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, I'm now going to
Yes.
share my
Yes,
example.
I
Sure.
can see the flair of principal in you now.
Because we have limited, we have given and we are very clear and very firm with the amount of the screen time that the baby is going to have,
Okay.
and that's it, and it sticks to
And-
it.
and what is that
from the
time?
very- it's like half an hour at the max. in 24 hours,
Okay.
and then he knows it. And you know, even at that time, if I give him a call and he says, "Oh, sorry, it's my time," so you know, he doesn't want to waste that time.
Right.
But that's how it works.
Yeah.
And we need to be firm, because we cannot detach them totally from them. We need to understand that,
That's
because
true.
this is what the need of the time is.
Right.
You know, they're the Kindle and all that. So.
And thank you very much for saying that. You know, Haja, I just wanted to ask you this as well. And thank you so much for saying that, because that's certainly
Yes.
something which is important now. Because if the other kid is out there and they are able to use the device,
Exactly.
obviously your kid should be able to do so. But ma'am,
course.
you know, as the principal scans, you know, there might be different occasions in your life during the entire career where you might have come across children where you might have to sit down with their parents that, okay, we think
Yes.
that there needs to be some better parenting roles out there for your children.
Yes, there
How
are.
do you think that we kind of cater to that? Because not every mother out there is very kind to their children. You know, so we really need to kind of put it that way.
Of course.
10% of the 100% population of mothers out there, 10% of
Yes.
them might not be focusing on their kids, and they might not have had it naturally. You
Yes.
know, they might have been pushed to be a mother in the first place. There's a lot of societal pressure on them.
The family
How do you think,
pressures.
what sort of, first of all, what have you experienced by far, you know, where you had to sit down with your parents? What was that one thing which you pointed out that your kid might not be in the right direction, so that, you know, we kind of make other people aware of it as well? Please go ahead.
First of all, I'll just stretch that limit from 10 to more than 10, because in our career we come across a lot of parents who
Okay.
are into it, facing it without even realizing.
That
So,
is
you
a
know,
problem.
that's the time when we need to sit and we realize that it's not the counseling with the child, it's the counseling with the parents that we need to do.
True.
And make them understand, you know, this issue is because your child is spending so much time on the screen that in the class half of the time he's like zombied out, he's zomed out, and he doesn't even know what's going on.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
and then making them realize and understand that, you know, we are on one side. You know,
Yeah.
it's not across the tables that, you know, it's not a duel. So let's be on one side and work for the child.
Wonderful.
So we are quite successful in many of these cases that we are able to make them
Wonderful.
understand.
Mashallah,
Wonderful.
mashallah.
So Nayab, we are coming back to you. Since you are working mom and you also in the field of journalism, and I was having this conversation with one of the lady who was also happens to be a colleague of mine, and she said that her child has developed this habit of eating food while being engaged on the gadget. And
I
if
do
you,
that too.
And if you remove that gadget, the child doesn't eat. And certainly for the working mom, it's a very challenging task, right? Because they're not just looking after their kids, they're looking after their offices, they're looking after their homes. So it becomes easier for them in order to manage their responsibilities. But on the other hand, it has really dark effects on the child, right? So what sort of thoughts do you have on this topic?
Family responsibilities are supposed to be the biggest determining factor for any female.
Yes.
And the responsibility becomes all the more pertinent when you become a mother.
Yes.
So, in my first 3 years of marriage, I was a wife. I was handling everything so that my responsibilities towards Schwab didn't get affected.
Okay.
But then my babies came along, and this guilt of
Yes.
missing out on those milestones,
Yes.
a few milestones, no matter how few they may be,
Yes.
I know that they tend to at times make me act a little lenient towards them, that when
Right.
I cannot say no to them, or when my babies look at me with their puppy eyes, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
fine.
There's
But
this special
I know
expression they would
that
always have on their foreheads, you know, and you're like, okay, now I cannot
exactly,
say
you
no.
can't do anything
And
about
they're very
it.
skilled in that, right?
No, they're not skilled. Yeah, they're only 2.5,
Sometimes
3 years
children
old.
do play
And
that
they look
way.
at you like
No,
this.
the jury is still out on that what they are doing, whether it's ingrained in them and that got to them from me, or whether it is because of my circumstances. But yes, every time I'm working on my story or I'm outside my house, the guilt is there. And
Right.
that has a lot to do with the new parenting model. This is what I believe, and I see that with my colleagues as well. That because we tend to skip out on time with our babies, with our children,
Yes.
that is why that in the time that we do have with them, some of us, I mean, I try my level best to introduce activities with them.
Wonderful.
I try my level best to plan out activities, to do things that actually inculcate their critical skills.
Wonderful.
But then other times, I do know that had I been a stay-at-home mother or a housewife alone, I would have been far too strict with them. So yes, it is a complicated situation.
Obviously, but Durin Nayab, you know, thank you so much for being so honest, because you said, you know, there's these responsibilities which you really need to fulfill, and God forbid, you know, there's always fear of missing out as well.
Yes.
But now very quickly, you know, coming down, you know, obviously since you happen to be a journalist and you're making sure that you're working on your stories as well, where do you feel more responsible? Do you think that you feel more responsible towards your audience, or do you think that you feel more responsible towards your babies? You know, so I'm very sorry for putting you under the spotlight.
That's a
But let
very
me
tricky
ask you,
question.
yeah.
That is a very tricky question. But if you think,
And you really need to be wise, because imagine that, you know, your kids one day might be opening up this link
I know
and
that is
watching you
what I'm
speak.
thinking. And I'm pretty sure that they won't be watching it on their own, but my husband would be forcing them to look, what did your mom say about you?
Yeah.
But, okay. If I think about it, the attention has changed. There has been a shift in my career. Now I am more drawn towards stories that seem to have a social impact, that seem to have a social reforming factor to them.
Yeah.
And that works, that tends to work out nice for my career, yes. But I mean, the last few years, my bylines have more been associated with social issues. My bylines have more been associated with abuse of children, with abuse of,
Right.
uh, with uh, with the state's responsibility towards providing rights of children. There
Right.
was this one story that I did about a child rapist who was acquitted by the court. And I know for a fact that had I not been a mother, I would not have been that driven towards pursuing it, because it was a convoluted case. I had to get quotes from here and there and everywhere. And you know how getting quotes from government agencies
Yes.
can be a bit cumbersome. But I know for a fact that had it not been for my own babies, this fear of ensuring that child security, child safety is prioritized by the state would not have been there. So it
And
has
two,
helped me as a journalist,
yeah,
yes.
and two last things, you know, before we wrap up this segment where we're talking about women in journalism, that too as well. So number one, obviously you didn't really give me a straight answer whether what do you feel more responsible towards, whether your babies or your journalism. But okay, let's leave that behind. Now, very quickly, you know, because whenever we speak about journalism, we do know that, you know, world over, it's a very risky business for people. So imagine
right.
they're picking up on stories which can put them in a lot of danger. It can give them a lot of success, you know, so there's a lot of everything in it. So how do you make sure that you're picking up on subjects while being a journalist which will not be harmful to you or to your family? And do you really think like that as a journalist or more as a mother?
No, I can't do that. I've been trying to work on that. I've been trying to stay away from risky stories. I've been trying to play safe, but that does not seem to happen.
That's
It's
true.
very confusing. I don't know how to master that, so I don't know how to answer your question.
Yeah.
But
I think it's all right, you know. So I probably might have understood it, you know, over the last decade as well. That, you know, that there are things which are tricky, and you know, my father keeps on telling me that, you know, that the only reason why we moved from Faisalabad, you know, wherever our village was, to over here was that there were a lot of property disputes back there, and we certainly
Course.
did not wanted to fight or end up in a chaos as well. So thank you very much, Durran Ayab, for being with us. Lovely
Thank
to
you
be in
so much.
conversation with you, and keep up your good work, and, you know, blessings for Yahya and your daughter as well. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being with
so
us.
much. Thank
And,
you.
and
Have a good
that's
day,
exactly
guys.
what I want to talk about. So imagine that, you know, even if she said that Yahya is just too young, that baby would always know about their mother. You know, so even if it's a 2-month-old, it's a 3-month-old,
Exactly.
माँ ने पकड़ना ही है तो उसने चुप होना है. No matter, because
That's
I've been through that.
Yeah,
That's-
that's the feel. You must have experienced that, you know, child is crying, and the minute the mother
Yes.
gets hold of
Even
him
when
and
I
it's
think
gone.
about hugging my mother, you know, I get relaxed. You know, that's something which is so innate.
That's
you know,
true.
and I think that you were born with this ability to have this priceless bond with your mother,
And
and
for
the way she
first
looks after
6
you.
months, sorry that I am raising a point here, that for first 6 months a child doesn't know that, an infant doesn't know that he is a separate individual.
Oh.
He thinks that
He's still a
that
part
it's,
of-
it's part of the same body.
And that is why they feel so much warmth and so much love whenever you take them to your mom. And the moment you separate them, they become very cranky and they started crying, right? So an educationist, Ms. Bushra, and I would like you, both of you, to answer that. And we have seen, especially in the feminist literature, there are a lot of studies about the challenges of the single working mom or the divorced moms, right? And again, like we put it before, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So it's a very hard responsibility bringing up the kids and also working at the same time. And I'm pretty sure you might have kids who might have some challenges with the, or do you find them more resilient in a way because they are raised by an independent mom? So what is your opinion about that?
Actually, what is my own observation that those children are becoming independent at a very early
mature,
age.
yes.
And then if those single mothers, if they are into conveying whatever they are feeling or whatever are the family issues or problems in a very honest manner with their child,
Right.
or discussing each and everything with the child, so then the lesser issues are created.
Thank you so much. But don't you think that, at times a mother always, kind of tries to shelter the wrongdoings of their babies and not to bring them in front of their father? Ki yaar, pata nahi, I do not know whether how, his or her father is going to behave or react as well. Do you think that the mother does that
But
quite
you
a
know,
lot?
whenever we are calling mothers and whenever we are facing such situations, so we do counsel mothers
Yes.
that please talk to your child and talk to the child as parent, like
Yes.
both of you should be sitting together and talking to the child
Exactly.
in case of an issue.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Shahzad, you will find, obviously, you also father, and we've also experienced your childhood.
मुझे लगता है मैं माँ ही हूँ.
that-
Honestly.
that the roles are changing a lot. So we were very, and we could see the role of motherhood, the epitomizes how beautifully with the political leaders, Miss Mariam Nawaz with her mother, the late mother, and also we see that the motherly love brewing up. But then again, coming to a question, so we see that there's a shift in the roles, right? So our relationship with our parents was more formal, right? Her mom was more formal, so we might not open up about a lot of things in front of a mother, because we knew that there were some respectable boundaries that we do not want to cross that, right?
True.
But now it's very changed because of the awareness, because of the social media, so
Social,
kids are
exactly,
opening
yeah.
up a lot,
And
right?
it's not that the respect boundaries, they have just been redefined.
Yes.
Redefined, so that
Yes.
the parents are more approachable for the child.
Yes.
And it's more of mentoring that now the mothers
Yes.
are getting into.
Yes,
So that's
yes.
more of a mentoring. They are talking, and even for the boys, previously it used to be like, okay, the male figure needs to be there, but I still find that the boys somehow the other open up with the mothers.
Right.
Yeah.
that's
Share
true.
with the mothers
Obviously.
much more easily and comfortably.
Because fathers have a very different perspective, सख्त perspective, monitor
It's
वाला
black and
perspective.
white for them.
Yeah.
So you know that the grey shade
no grey
needs,
line.
that's the mother who brings that grey shade.
Exactly. Thank you so much for saying that, because ladies and gentlemen, we've highlighted the importance of mothers. Imagine that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
Sallallahu alaihi
wasallam
wasallam.
said that even if I was offering my prayers and my mother would call me, I would break my prayer and go attend my
Yes.
mother as well. So that's a
Yes.
level of respect that
Yes.
you're
Yes.
supposed to give to your mothers.
Yes.
But very quickly, just drifting a little from being a mother and then, indulging into being a wife as well. So imagine, do you think that, a mother is so captivated by her children that at times she literally does forget about her husband too?
Honestly speaking, yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See, that's why we had teachers, educationists, principals who've had, who can actually have the courage to speak the truth as well. Ma'am, what about you?
Yes, because
Is your husband watching the show?
yes,
God save
actually
me.
it's innate behavior.
True.
Like it's innate behavior. It is within a woman that she is a mother.
And
Yeah.
I think that also stems from the instinct that children can't look after themselves, but a husband can
Husband
look after them. That's true, and so that is why there's this behavior. But obviously, as we talked about, that the concept of motherhood is such an overwhelming concept. It's such a beautiful concept that it defies all odds, and especially when it comes to protectiveness. And it's not just about the human beings. And if you see, this instinct also prevails in the animals. So you would see a hen. She's such a helpless sort of an animal, but if you see anyone is there to harm her chicks, the way she becomes a proactive mom, so you will find that that is an innate gift, that is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first place, right? So we would like to take your message on this Mother's Day, and certainly, like you talked about before, that the respect is changing. It's an evolving concept, right?
Yes, it is.
And I think that some mothers do find it very difficult to grapple this thing, because obviously it's changing, and it will constantly change in the days
It
to
will,
come,
because
right?
the children now we are raising are for the coming years.
Yes.
So
yes.
we need to redefine our concepts as well, so
Yes.
that the children that we are raising are able to adjust very comfortably in the coming years, because the workforce that they are going to join is going
Yes.
to be totally different.
True.
So the demands are going to be totally
That's
different.
true,
So
that's
we
true.
need to understand that, and as a mother as well as an educationist,
Yes.
we need to raise a totally different generation now.
Yes.
And then do you think that the mothers really need to modify their behaviors of being a mother?
Yes, honestly, yes.
Honest. And-
Let's
and-
be honest in that aspect as well.
With changing
We need to.
times.
And we have. We have.
How? Okay, for example, how, I'm very sorry, I'm going to take a little more time, but how?
because the kind of the formal way we were brought up as, you know, we are a changed mother
Bada
now.
sharmo lihaz, adab,
Yeah,
and you know, all of
exactly.
that. Yes.
So Sharma Lihaz apni jagah hai, but now it has been redefined.
True.
So it's a push a
So now
little.
parents are more open.
They're more open.
Yeah.
They're open to choose. You can go and talk about anything, and that's because of the social evils that are going around. Maybe
You
a
have
little.
to be open with
So
your
many
children.
things. Unless and until you're open with your child, your teenager is never going to tell you what they have been doing.
Exactly.
They have to go
exactly.
And why do you think mothers always need to know what their teenager is doing?
out. They need
Is
to.
it important?
Yes.
All right, please, ma'am, what about you?
So I would like to say that take care of your elderly parents,
Yes, yes.
especially mothers, and give them time, listen to them.
Yes.
So they would love to have a listening ear at this age.
Yes.
They don't want flashy gifts from you, they
That's
want
true.
your time. So
That's-
please, I would like to give, to say this as a message, that
Wonderful.
please give time to your mothers.
And exactly that. Thank you so much for
Thank
saying
you so
that.
much.
And you know,
Yes.
this is something which obviously children are going to learn by example.
Exactly.
So imagine that, you know, my grandparents, they used to live in Rawalpindi, Gawal Mandi, and we used to go every Sunday. Our father and mother used to take us to our grandparents. We used to stay over there for an entire day, sit down with them. And what I picked up from there was that it was my father who wanted to meet his parents. That's it, true. You know, because imagine if it was winter, so my grandfather had this habit of putting up a quilt right on top of it. So my father would squeeze in from here, you know, my chachu would squeeze in from here. And that's something which I've witnessed.
wonderful.
And now I hold importance to, you know, having that good time with my parents. Even though at times I sit down with my parents and I'm be like, you know, why don't you talk to me? You know, and they're like, okay, ki gal kari tere naal? You know, things like that. But you know, for everybody who's out there, who's out of ideas, ladies and gentlemen, it's not that time or their age that, you know, you really need to have an activity. Just by being there,
Yes.
besides them,
Yes.
asking them, kuch chahiye to nahi, you know, do you need anything
Yes.
from me? Can I do anything for you? You know, that's enough. And most of the times, parents would never tell you what they need, ladies and gentlemen. So you might have to take the initiative. So I'm going to share an example over here. वैसे तो नेकी करो दरिया में डालो, but I would love to say it so that anybody would want to take inspiration. So imagine that my father and my mother have never, you know, let me travel by a bus if we had enough facilitation.
Okay.
So imagine just a few days ago, my father was supposed to drop a car to my younger brother. So he went himself to Lahore and he was willing to come back on a bus. I made sure that, you know, that I'm going to bring back my father in a car, you know, as comfortable as he can be. And I think that's something which he was not agreeing to in the first place. But then I didn't ask, you know, I was like, okay, there's a car parked
just did
outside.
it, yeah.
Please make sure that you come outside. So for all of those people or children who have been thinking, कि यार मैं तो जो भी पूछता हूँ वो इनकार ही करते हैं, बेटे पूछो नहीं कर दो. I think that's the only thing which I would want to say.
And I think at that age of the time, especially because they have so many wisdom accumulated, they have so many stories accumulated, and they just want to pass it down to the generation. So just sitting there and listening to them also helps a lot, and it gives them the importance that they always desire. Because I do remember I had that sort of a relationship with my dadi. So my dadi was a very expressive lady. You know, she was talkative. She would talk a lot, and I am usually a shy kid, and I was a quiet. So I would just go there and sit with her and listen to her stories for 2-3 hours straight, and it was such as a beautiful
She used to
feeling.
take a lot of money from my dadi. She always used to have it in a dupatta, knotted and whatnot. And then I was like, but thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
for
very
being
much.
with us,
Thank you
mothers,
so much.
principals and educationists, you know,
Yes.
because you are the ones who are the reason that we, people like me and Haja are over
Yes,
here
of
presenting
course.
right in front of the world as
course.
well. You've groomed us, you've taken out time. Not just that you've left behind your children to look after other children. I think there's
That's
a
a
lot of
beautiful
respect,
job,
which is
yes.
why हम आपको अपने रूहानी वालिदैन समझते हैं. Thank you so much once
Thank you
again.
so
Wonderful
much.
to be in conversation. So ladies and gentlemen, 2-3 things what a mother would want from you. And that's not that somebody has spoken about it. That is time, and that's about it. That's all they want. Please make sure that you take out time, sit down with them and talk. You know, just ask them if they need anything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, look after your parents. May it be your mother, may it be your
Yes.
father, grandparents, and take a lot of du'as from them. And ladies and gentlemen, you will always be successful. Alhamdulillah. Ba adab, ba naseeb. Good morning.
Good morning.